to do that with taxpayer resources is kind of unconscionable to me. It's clear liberal agenda. It's borderline pedophilic, if I had to be totally blunt about it. It's this is why they've been targeted for an across the board defund. We're 36 trillion in the hole. We need to cut some things somewhere along the line. Having a drag queen show devoted to children that nobody watches, that costs $1.2 billion a year to put together, should be at the top of the list for cutting.
All right, so who was your favorite Sesame Street character? Mine was probably Grover, and remains Grover. I loved it when he flew. I loved his voice. I loved everything about Grover. He was just endearing. Grover now is no longer owned by NPR, PBS, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. All rights to Sesame Street are now owned by HBO. Did you know that? Sesame Street has always been an incredibly marketable product, which is why it's now owned by the private sector. So we don't need to pay for it anymore, taxpayers. That's cool. And there's a lot at NPR and PBS that we should not be paying for. We'll make that argument with David Bozell. He is the president of the Media Research Center, and he's been involved in this for a long time. You may know newsbusters.org, the site Newsbusters. You can get a lot of information there. Before we talk to David, let me remind you to please subscribe. Just hit that subscribe button wherever you're listening or watching right now. This one has some stuff you're going to want to watch. You can hear it well too, but we're going to play you a video montage in here you're going to want to see. So always YouTube, Rumble, but listen anywhere you can and just hit that subscribe button. David Bozell is leading the charge to say taxpayers should not be on the hook for PBS or NPR. They are not the neutral, down the middle of the road entities they claim to be. Why are taxpayers paying for this, particularly when the most successful thing, Sesame Street, has been sold off to the private sector? We're going to make the argument. You're going to see the video. It's all coming up next. David, welcome. It's good to talk to you. This is such an interesting topic to me because I remember the 2012 election when Mitt Romney was running against Barack Obama. And it came up that, we should defund. And everyone said, he's going to kill Big Bird. And I remember even my kids' friends saying, I don't want to lose Big Bird, so it was really kind of funny. But I agree. There's just certain things we don't need anymore, like the UN and PBS and NPR. So why the push for this now? Well, I love my friends at besthotgrill.com, and they make the Solaire infrared grill, which is incredible. So declare your independence this July from the low heat, low power gas grills, which in the course of grilling events wear out every couple of years. Secure your rights to juicy steaks, succulent chicken, and moist fish, as well as healthy grilled veggies. Pursue grilling happiness with the purchase of a USA-made, hot, fast Solaire infrared gas grill. Solaire is perfect for today's busy lifestyle, securing its powers from the efficient direct heat of the Solaire infrared burner, which reaches 1,000 degrees in just 3 minutes to lock in the juices and flavors and grill food faster. All stainless steel and welded construction. It is self-evident that Solaire could be the last grill you will ever buy. Making grilling great again with Solaire infrared grills. Learn more about these amazing USA-made grills at besthotgrill.com. 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 So why the push for this now?
Well, this is, defunding PBS and NPR and essentially the Corporation for Public Broadcasting has been a wish list for the conservative movement for the past 40 years. And various presidents all nominees have all pledged to do it, including Reagan, including
all
George
Republican nominees.
Yeah, all Republican nominees. They've all pledged to do it. Pretty sure Romney made that pledge as well, which is why he got the heat that he did. Never mind the fact that Big Bird has since been sold to HBO. So it's one of those little known things. PBS and CPB does not own Elmo. does not own Sesame Street anymore. That's all owned by HBO. So anything that you see on a PBS station that's Sesame Street has been gifted to them by HBO. I think it's 9 weeks or maybe even 9 months after it originally aired on HBO. So all that argument doesn't fly. No. And good on them. Good on Sesame Street for making it in the open market, in the free market, which is what we want.
By the way, which isn't a stretch. We all knew that they could. They sell toys in the stores. It's incredibly popular. Right. People would be willing to pay for it. Go ahead.
Right. And people have, and the market has spoken. And they want as much Sesame Street as they can handle, and HBO is going to give it to them. So that's that. So every Republican candidate and nominee and president has pledged to do this, and here comes Donald Trump making the same pledge, and gosh darn it, he's going to do it. He submitted this package in the rescissions bill, the first rescissions bill. Russ Vought has said this will be the first of many rescissions bills. So CPB is in this first batch. Imagine Michele Tafoya, what the Michele Tafoya podcast could do with $1.2 billion
Holy
annually.
Smokes.
You'd be breaking records, right? Because you have much better balanced programming than they do.
Right.
They can't seem to muster up any audience at all, despite that huge leverage of the dollars that they have. And so, yes, they're making the rounds in Washington, D.C. as we speak. They're trying to survive. The bill is in front of the Senate right now. We do expect it to pass the Senate by the end of next week. And so we do expect CPB to be defunded and finally the conservative movement can fulfill its promise that it's made to the American people for the past 40 years. I'm super excited about it.
Well, let's dig in just a little bit, because I'm sure there are people who are clutching their pearls saying, no, you can't possibly defund the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. It came into being all those years ago in the 60s. Why?
The government in its infinite wisdom suggested that there were rural communities that did not have access to stations that could live on the FM and AM band. So it's in its infinite wisdom, it decided to create the essentially National Public Radio, and that evolved into the television version of PBS. And so to help rural communities, underserved communities. But now, with 96% of the country basically hardwired for internet, those needs don't exist.
Right.
Their latest claim is that farmers will not get weather reports, if not for NPR. Never mind that the National Weather Service exists, and every radio station in the country by law is mandated to carry the emergency broadcasting system. So if there was an emergency, such as what happened in Guadalupe, every station would break into it. So,
well, and by the way, if that logic of theirs held true, then there wouldn't have been such catastrophe in the Guadalupe area, in Austin, Texas, all that stuff. I mean, if they are the answer, if they are the key to all weather forecasts, things would be looking much different. But we have weather apps now, and certainly farmers have all kinds of access. There are a million weather apps. There are, like you said, the emergency system. None of their arguments make sense, but I think most glaringly, they have found a way to become biased. They offered themselves as this middle of the road public access. We're going to serve all of America. They don't. And there are people who still believe that if they listen to NPR or they watch PBS, they are getting the unvarnished, quote unquote, truth, that there is no bias there. That's simply not true, right?
Right. Well, look, I'll go through some of the numbers right here. Okay. So MRC, Media Research Center, just did a study just last week. Okay. PBS's Washington Week, which is their flagship political program. I think it airs every Friday. Okay. 93% negative bias against Republicans in 2025. 93%. Now they're fighting for their life in terms of their funding, and they're still 93% negative, because you might want to, get a clue here. That includes of the guests on the show, 13 out of the 14 guests on the show were raging left-wingers. They did have one quasi-conservative guest from the Dispatch. On NPR's flagship political show, Fresh Air, 36 left-wing guests, zero right-wing guests in 2025. They mislabel the Republican Party far right versus labeling the Democrat Party far left at a rate of 42-1. There are 127 references to the far right label, only 3 references to calling the Democrats or liberals far left. So they are hip deep in liberal ideology.
Yeah.
And they cannot seem to shake it. But it's not just sort of the guests, and it's not just sort of their negativity. Just some wild examples that we've seen on their airwaves. In 2022, folks, they actually aired the audio of a woman having an abortion.
I was not aware of that. Good God.
Thinking that was a newsworthy item. In 2023, they declare the Communist Manifesto, quote, stalwart text, stirring refuge, and for people who, quote, feel betrayed by the so-called free market. The Communist Manifesto. This is the United States National Public Radio, who's stiff-armed communism for centuries. In 2021, get this, the Children's Network, there was another children's show, I don't think it was Sesame Street, aired a drag queen cover of The Wheels on the Bus. And it went like this. The hips on the drag queen go swish, swish, swish.
Well, we actually have a clip.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to ask for this clip for Misty to play. This isn't just that. This is kind of a side-by-side comparison of the way things kind of started and the way that they've gone with the kids programming. Let's go ahead and roll this, Misty.
Boys are boys from the beginning. If you were born a boy, you stay a boy. Girls are girls right from the start. If you were born a girl, you stay a girl and grow up to be a lady.
The hips on the drag queen go swish, 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 swish.
Elmo, Cookie, are you ready to see my monster piece?
Ready, Jonathan!
Mama Bear, some runway music, please.
Hi-ho, Kermit the Frog here today to talk to you about 2 very
That guy's wearing a
important
dress.
feelings. And those 2 important feelings are happy and sad.
And we loved meeting Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Ruth Bader Ginsburg helped make lots of amazing changes happen. She was a total hero.
If anyone could be your neighbor, who would you choose?
I think it would be fun to have Michelle Obama as my neighbor.
Me no bully.
Yes, you bully.
What is bully?
Help me explain bully.
What's happening? Why are all these people together?
Oh, well, they're gathering together to protest.
They look upset. Are the protesters sad?
They are sad and upset, and they have every right to be, Elmo. What we are seeing is people saying enough is enough. They want to end racism.
The mouth on the drag queen goes blah, 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 blah.
Gross.
I'll tell you, David, I don't really understand the motivation for having a drag queen talking to kids. I've never understood this. It's some people think it's absolutely harmless. Wherever you come down on it, I'd like to know, like, why. This isn't something we did in the 50s, and I'm not suggesting everything we did in the 50s was perfect. I wasn't even around the 50s, but you get the idea. I mean, you go from Mr. Rogers to a drag queen, and it's rather stark. What do you think's the motivation there for this?
And to do that with taxpayer resources is kind of unconscionable to me. It's clear liberal agenda. It's borderline pedophilic, if I had to be totally blunt about it. This is why they've been targeted for an across-the-board defund. It's right that is Exhibit A, right then and there. Now let's reverse it. What if they had? Could you ever imagine PBS suggesting that the coolest neighbor to have would be Clarence Thomas?
Oh no!
Right?
No!
Right? They cut off the mic.
Yeah.
if somebody went on the air and suggested that, or if Donald Trump was their neighbor.
Yeah, this can only go one direction, right? There's no balance.
Right, and yeah, exactly right. So, look, you cannot expect, particularly with all the debt and deficit that we're running in this country, right? If we're swimming in cash, okay, maybe I could maybe tolerate some of this, but we're not. We're 36 trillion in the hole. We need to cut some things somewhere along the line. Having a drag queen show devoted to children that nobody watches, that costs $1.2 billion a year to put together, should be at the top of the list for cutting.
Well, and we saw the CEO of NPR, the woman on Capitol Hill, being grilled by politicians about past posts that she had put up, that her very liberal agenda, the fact that she once said, you don't need to fact check, some truths are just truth. You don't need to double check that.
She was in favor of reparations before she wasn't.
Right. All those things that made her very politically biased. There was no middle ground with her, and it was quite evident. So you've said that this effort has been around for a long time.
Yeah.
What about the pushback? What have you noticed a difference in the pushback, say, from 2012 with Mitt Romney, and here we are in 2025?
Well, what the biggest leg out, kind of the political advantage that our cause has at the moment is that Sesame Street is no longer owned by Corporation for Public Broadcasting, so they can't use Big Bird and Elmo as a hammer against us. So that's an advantage that we have for sure. And again, good on them for making a go of it on the free market and making
absolutely.
And look, if Elmo wants to keep going down that rabbit hole of what is and what isn't racism and why are people protesting and what's a good protester, okay, as long as I don't have to pay for it, best of luck, Elmo, if you want to go down that path. So that's a big signature difference. The technology across the board is improved, right? You've got if 96% of the country is hardwired into the internet, plus you have Starlink as an option,
which is amazing, by the way. We invested in one when we lost our internet at a particular stretch, and Starlink is amazing.
Yeah, it's incredible, and not to mention you've got a whole swath of new competition on the left as well. Yeah. Sirius offers a left liberal channel on their networks.
Yeah, you're talking about the satellite radio, Sirius
with their internet. Yeah, so it's not like they're bereft of liberal programming. There's a lot more than there used to be. It's not just ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, and MSNBC. Everyone's got a podcast, just like everyone has a podcast on the right. So the left has those things. Left has those. I kind of liken podcasts to songs. Like you can never have enough of them. People criticize there's too many podcasts, and no, there's not. You can never have enough of them.
Well,
go ahead. Well, so when you combine the technology, when you combine the fact that Sesame Street is not owned by CPB anymore, when you combine that their believability rate is in the toilet, and they denied the importance of the Hunter Biden laptop story. They just totally denied its existence, that it wasn't an important story to pursue. They actually said, this is their flagship anchor. It's a great quote. I love repeating it. This is within a year of each other. Okay. This is February 2024, Jeffrey Goldberg, PBS. Quote, mentally, Joe Biden is quite acute. Let that one sink in. Okay. That was February 2024. May of 2025, 1 year later, quote, same guy, Jeffrey Goldberg, quote, I don't understand how this narrative has developed that the media was covering for Joe Biden. Okay. So maybe
that's funny.
Maybe
that's
look in the mirror.
Sitcom material. Yeah, it's really remarkable. Again, with
they have no credibility. They're too expensive.
Yes.
The taxpayers should not be footing this bill. We can't afford it anyway.
No.
There's really no audience. One of their arguments too, Michelle, is that they're the last bastion of local programming. Less than 5% of every station airs a local show.
Yeah.
And some some stations across the NPR bandwidth don't have any local programming at all.
Right.
So 24 hours out of every day is beamed to them. This is actually true of like Omaha, Nebraska. We saw this the other day. Omaha, Nebraska. You would think that they would have some local programming there. PBS or everything is beamed to Omaha from Philadelphia, Boston, or Washington, D.C. So it's just...
I believe it because it becomes cheaper for all of these places to just beam in other stuff. Listen, I'm going to tell you from personal experience. I grew up in radio. I started in radio, then went to television. I have seen 1 million radio stations from LA to Charlotte, North Carolina. I've been inside them. I know what they look like. I know what the facilities offer and what struggling radio stations look like. Then I was asked to go into Twin Cities here in Minneapolis, St. Paul, over to their NPR building in St. Paul to record something. Place is a palace relative to anything else I've ever seen in radio in my life.
Wow.
I was astonished.
Yeah.
So clearly they get a lot more money from the government than the free market competition gets trying to keep their heads above water.
Pretty sure NPR has at least 10 studios in Washington, D.C. alone. I don't know why. And they're palaces.
Yeah. Yes. Relative to a local radio station.
Yeah.
I was absolutely astonished, and it was It was mind blowing and eye opening for me when I had to kind of accept the fact. Well, this is what government funding gets you. Right. And everyone else is scraping, So, listen, the arguments you've made are so simple, and you're pretty certain. You sound confident that this is going to happen. That these things are going to.
Yeah, I'm a glass half full kind of guy. Now, the Guadalupe situation is potentially complicating. There's poor little girls stuck in the mud, and God bless them. And I could see a senator or two questioning their vote with that reality. But it's going to be up to us and at Media Research Center and folks across the movement to make sure that we're in front of those voters, make sure we're in front of those senators and say, listen, we don't want to make another $1 billion mistake here. This is an operation that is giving a lifeline to liberalism that we're paying for.
Yeah.
And there is nothing that $1 billion could do that would have saved those poor girls. And as nobody really kind of wants to admit the fact that a tropical depression parked itself across overhead of the Guadalupe River for 3 days. Mm-hmm. And that's the reason why this tragedy unfolded. National Weather Service was more than adequately staffed and sent out more than its fair share of alerts. So, all due respect, that argument.
Well, and the National Weather Service is separate from all of this, right? Yes. That's a totally different entity.
Yeah, but these lobbyists are smart, and NPR can go into a senator's office and look him in the eye and say, well, if first it's us and then it's them, and this is how these games get played. So I can see that happening as we speak in the bowels of Washington, D.C. So we just got to be on our toes. But this is, in terms of just the global politics of this, one of the things I think the Trump administration has figured out is why put spending cuts in the hands of Congress when they just kind of end up squabbling with each other and nothing happens. So this is, I think, the strategy of the rescissions package. Let's codify some DOGE cuts, particularly within the USAID spectrum, which people have been clamoring for, and let's throw some other things, some other priorities that we've had as a movement for a very long time, and CPB is the first among them. Yeah. So, and it's a tighter package that I think it's a challenge for Republicans to vote against it, because they've all signed on to the platform that this should not exist. All of them have signed up for this platform, that PBS and NPR should not exist at the taxpayer expense. And so it's time to put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah, I totally agree. And speaking of money, David, people will say, look, it's only $1 billion. We can afford this.
Right.
But we keep saying that time
Yeah.
after time after time after time. As you said, we can't afford to keep making the big decisions are big decisions. This could be considered a small decision, but it's a relevant decision.
Right. Well, if you can't do the small ones,
right,
you'll
how do
never
you do
the big ones.
Right.
And that's kind of just macroeconomics here at this point. And these guys, particularly Republicans, well, Democrats don't like cutting spending, but there's a swath of Republicans that just don't have it in their DNA to cut anything, and they forget what it's like to even do that. Even the big beautiful bill, I mean, it's being misrepresented as a cut. It's actually just a cut in the projected rate of growth.
Yeah,
it's not a cut at all.
Let's drill down on that for just a second before we finish, because when people hear the word cut, very often they don't realize that it means, well, we're just going to maintain the spending where it is. We're not going to grow it 2%, 5%, whatever over the coming years. So it's a cut in future growth, but that doesn't mean it's, hey, we're gashing the program.
No, not at all. It's with the Medicaid portion of the big beautiful bill, they rejiggered some of the eligibility requirements. They want states to grandfather men, single, able-bodied men, off of the Medicaid rolls. Okay, so that would be a cut in the rate of growth. They're grandfathering people off because they're eligible to work, and they were eligible to work prior to Obamacare, and Obamacare kind of blew the whole system up. And it gets a little bit more complicated, from there. But that's the basic core tenet of it. So that's how you get into this, cut in a projected rate of growth. You're just really grandfathering people off of that program. But everyone loses their minds in Washington D.C. Oh, that's a cut. I cannot possibly go back into my district and tell them that I cut Medicaid. No, you shouldn't do that. You go back to your district and you say, I preserved Medicaid for the people who needed it.
Yeah.
Right. For what the program was intended to do, which was for poor, disabled children. We don't have any money to pay for the health care of poor, disabled children. A big reason why is because too many single, able-bodied men have joined the program.
Right. And
that's what Republicans, are attempting to do in the big, beautiful bill. I think that's an easy sell if you're a member of Congress. I think some folks struggle with it more than others, but I think it should be easy. But they gotta kick the tires with some cutting of government. They just have to. They got to get back to their core tenet. Otherwise, they're just Democrat light, and we're just dogs chasing our own tails.
Yeah, and then national security becomes a bigger issue with each passing day. I'm glad you're doing this. I am fully on board with this, and I have been for a long time, because, as you said, technology is such that kids can access any kind of programming they want on a little device called a phone or an iPad or a laptop or as you've said, in a myriad of places, that we don't need to be spending government money on it. Now, National Weather Service is something entirely different. If you say that they're going to say, hey, this is a slippery slope, it's sort of like when Roe v. Wade was canceled, they said, what's next? Gay marriage?
Right.
Things aren't even related, but they're going to try to scare everyone. It's a really sad state of affairs in government, and people just need to brace for it and say, what would you do in your own house? What would you cut in your own house if you had to? And this is our house. America's our house.
You'd start small.
Yeah.
To get to the big stuff.
Yeah. David, if people want to find more information on this, where would you direct them?
So all of our best PBS and NPR stuff is on newsbusters.org. We've got a whole section devoted to this. It's also Free Speech America is our lead grassroots division leading the charge up on Capitol Hill. So I encourage everyone to Google that. My Twitter account is David Bozell, the MRC. We've got too many Twitter accounts.
Well, we'll put them all in the show notes too. But it's neat because once you go to one, you can navigate to the others because they're listed in your profile. I'm so glad to finally meet you in person.
You too, Michelle.
And I
too.
know I'm going to be seeing more of you in the future.
Yeah.
And let's get this to happen. Let's make it understood.
Thank you. Thank
yeah.
you. And you are, I meant when I said off air, you are the standard in broadcasting. And it's an honor to be on your program, really is.
Thank you so much. I end every podcast, David, with the phrase, be brave, do good, because some of these decisions that we have to make do require some courage, but they ultimately are doing good. And this is one of those. And I appreciate you coming on, and we will see you all next time. Hey, you can keep up with the Trump administration when you subscribe to the Trump Report. It's an email that brings you daily highlights from the Oval Office right to your inbox 5 days a week. Subscribe today at SalemPodcastNetwork.com/Trump.